We're in the last quarter of 2020, a year that will be long remembered for the COVID-19 pandemic. For China, if not for the virus, this year should have been more about marking anniversaries in its relations with Southeast Asian nations. The Asian superpower marks 70 years of diplomatic ties with Myanmar, Vietnam and Indonesia. With Singapore, it's been 30 years. We visited 3 Chinese cities to take a closer look at 3 main projects jointly undertaken by Singapore and China. Using nanotechnology, JIANG makes microspheres or nanospheres, which are essential ingredients in many products, from medicines like insulin to the LCD screens on smartphones, and even COVID-19 nucleic test kits. Mr. Jiang started his nanotechnology firm in the Suchou Industrial Park 13 years ago, drawn by the city's drive to develop its science and technology sectors.
园区也是最早的从非常基础、非常薄弱的一个生物药产业，跟那个纳米产业都非常薄弱，到现在发展的都是，我觉得不管是生物制药还是纳米产业，都是发展到全国最领先的一个地位。
The Suchou Industrial Park lies about half an hour's drive away from Suchou city centre. Started in 1994, the project received the backing of late Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping and Singapore's founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. And it was the first government-to-government project between the two countries. The aim then was for China to learn from Singapore's industrialisation experiences. The project was also part of Singapore's strategy to develop an external wing to its economy.
The Suchou Industrial Park is a very important window for China's economic reforms because it was the first purpose-built park that was an experiment for China's opening up to the rest of the world. Not only did it have best practices in management, environmental management, industrial management, as well as having the implementation of the latest management theories and technologies in an industrial park, but it also has soft cultural aspects of the industrial parks, which includes having a vibrant arts and cultural scene with a theatre, arts and cultural centre, and even a retirement village.
Today, with companies like Mr. Jiang's, the Suchou Industrial Park has progressed beyond being a traditional industrial park. It houses some 25,000 companies, including Fortune 500 giants like Samsung, UPS and Motorola, while accounting for about 14% of Suchou's gross domestic product. Last year, the Chinese government announced 6 new pilot free trade zones, including one in Jiangsu province that encompasses part of the Suchou Industrial Park. This, along with Suchou's inclusion in the Yangtze River Delta Economic Plan, elevates the importance of Suchou and the Suchou Industrial Park. And the Suchou Industrial Park model has been replicated in several cities across China, including in provinces like Anhui and far western Xinjiang.
新加坡的许多好的发展经验和做法，给中国提供了有益的借鉴，而不断扩大和开放的中国市场，也给新加坡提供了广阔的机遇。从最初的苏州工业园、天津生态城，到今天的这个中心重庆战略性互联互通示范项目，还有广州知识城、深圳智慧城市，中新合作经历了工业化、城镇化、 可持续发展等不同的阶段，并且在今天呢，还赶上了互联互通、数字经济、信息技术等新时代发展的浪潮，合作的质量和水平不断的提高。
As both countries mark 30 years of diplomatic relations this October, Singapore Ambassador to China Lui Tak-yu says the bilateral relationship and cooperation will evolve in new ways.
And so in future, the cooperation between Singapore and China may not just be limited to within China itself or within Singapore. We will cooperate together in third countries, for instance. We will see more Chinese companies internationalize, and we certainly want Singapore to be the launch pad, to be the hub from which they base their international operations.
Likewise, the Suchou Industrial Park has also set its sights on foreign shores. The China-Singapore Suchou Industrial Park Development Group, a joint venture company by both countries, has said it's looking to introduce and replicate the Suchou experience in other countries, like Indonesia, for example, under the framework of China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Green and smart, that's the goal for Tianjin Eco-City in northern China on the shore of Bohai Sea. It's the second government-led project between Singapore and China, and it's into its next phase of development. Let's find out how Tianjin Eco-City is taking shape. It's the end of the day and 39-year-old Tianhua is headed home. But instead of rummaging for keys, she just needs to get her face scanned at the gate. Next up is a temperature check, which would have sounded an alarm if she was running a fever. As she returns home, she can get down to preparing for dinner right away.
西红柿多少钱一斤？全国西红柿平均价格1.98元每斤。
小区的整个的一个环境，就是说很多它有这个智能化的一些设备存在，尤其像今年这个新冠疫情这么这个严重，然后但是这个小区呢就可以做到你不用去触摸任何东西，这样让大家住在这里会非常的安心。
Ms. Tian made the move last month and is among the first to live in what's been dubbed Tianjin Eco-City's first smart estate. Decked out with over 30 smart applications from fitness facilities to traffic information and even waste management.
因为我自己也有孩子嘛，然后从小也是养成了他们对于这个节能环保、垃圾分类的这样的一个好的习惯。家里没有用的东西，首先想到的是它可以分类到哪个垃圾的那个分类里面去，然后可以就是把它变废为宝吧，然后可以带着孩子一起去这个积分的这个超市里面去选购一些其他的一些必需品。
The smart estate has been hailed as an example of what's to come for Tianjin Eco-City, the second joint project between Singapore and China's governments. After 12 years of development, the project is entering a new phase. In China, hundreds of eco-city initiatives have been launched in recent years to promote a more sustainable urbanization model. One of them is the Tianjin Eco-City, the second joint project between the Singapore and Chinese governments. It's guided by a comprehensive set of 26 key performance indicators, covering areas like water quality and public green space in a bid to differentiate it from its competitors. But while the initial goal was to create a sustainable, livable city, now into its 12th year, it's also hoped that the project can be at the forefront of smart technologies.
请带我去新加坡主题馆。
This extends to public facilities, like the China-Singapore Friendship Library. Now, finding a specific book in a library can sometimes be quite a challenge, but I'm told that visitors here can get some help from this guy. I'm going to give it a try. 你好，小图，我想找天使不回家。He seems to have located the book.
请跟我来。
Now let's go find it.
你到达书架20排，并念一念0幺层。
And it seems to be telling me that the book is somewhere on this shelf. Yep, found it. But going smart is not just a gimmick, says the Eco-City's master developer. Instead, it's a natural choice, as China has also seen tremendous growth in this area.
But of course, in applying these technologies, we have to strike a balance between adopting the smart technologies and having to consider the additional investments that have to be made to make it happen. It has to be something that is useful. It's not smart for smart's sake, but something that really benefits the user and the homeowner.
This balance is something that Singapore developer Keppel Land says it has managed to achieve with the Eco-City's first smart estate.
这个实时的感知是把我们的小区的人口、房屋、设备、车辆，所有的这些小区的各种资源集成在这个平台上。如果说我们的物业管理人员通过用这个平台，可以实时的去了解、掌控，就是此时此刻发生的一切。 然后便于他用高效的手段去管理这些相应的一些问题和事件，这样他就节约了他的时间，节约了他的成本。
Singaporean Tan Junhan has been working in Tianjin Eco-City for the last 3 years. He says he has benefited from working with colleagues of diverse backgrounds, as well as witnessing the city's transformation firsthand. Although there are some things he does miss about home, so it does help that there are aspects of Tianjin Eco-City that provide some comfort.
For instance, we have a lot of parks and gardens and a large greenery along the streets. Here in the Tianjin Eco-City. Tianjin Eco-City has also adapted the ideas, Singapore ideas of community clubs, neighborhood centers and community libraries. I like to go for runs in the Eco-City, and when I go for runs here, I do find glimpses of Singapore within the Eco-City.
But while Singapore's DNA is embedded in the Eco-City, the project's master developer says China has also gone beyond that.
If you're in the Eco-City, it may sometimes be hard to imagine that this place was built on what used to be mostly salt pans and polluted wastewater. Now 12 years on and looking into the future, there are plans to replicate this experience in other Chinese cities and even other countries along China's Belt and Road.
Though it's just 12 years old, the project's administrative committee says the Tianjin Eco-City already provides a good benchmark for other projects.
比如说，在中国，我们前2年开始建设的雄安新区，就有很多的关于生态城市的建设的一些思路、一些方法、一些理念，那么都借鉴了我们生态城市指标体系的一些内容。
About 100,000 people currently live in Tianjin Eco-City, up from 20,000 in 2014. And as the city becomes more sustainable and smart, it's hoped that more would find it worthwhile to live and work here.
The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted world trade among many aspects as countries shut their borders. However, trade volume between Singapore and China grew by 20% in the first half of this year along its land-sea corridor. And that's a testament of how the two countries are jointly dealing with the pandemic by keeping supply chains open and getting the economy running. I'll take a closer look at the strategic importance of this route. This is one of the latest landmarks in China's southwestern Chongqing city, the $3.4 billion Raffles City Chongqing, Singapore's largest single development in China. Located in the heart of the city at the confluence of the Yangtze and Jialing rivers, the project opened its doors last year.
Chongqing is the largest city in China in terms of population, and it is also one of the fastest growing cities in the country. With the Belt and Road Initiative, Chongqing is definitely part of China's overall strategic map to become a big global player.
Chongqing's strategic location is also part of the reason why Singapore and China's third government-to-government project is located there. The first two projects are the Suchou Industrial Park and the Tianjin Eco-City. Unlike the other two projects which are focused on building modern integrated townships, the China-Singapore Chongqing Demonstration Initiative on Strategic Connectivity, or CCI, focuses on boosting connectivity while aiming to drive growth in China's less developed western region.
Right from the start, we recognized that this project goes beyond geographical boundary. So the CCI is actually based in Western China with Chongqing as the operating base. So this way we have really managed to reach out to the entire Western region, and this has facilitated people-to-people exchange between Singapore and Western China.
Today, the CCI's new international land-sea trade corridor has connected Chongqing with Tianzhou Port in Guangxi in the south by rail and to Singapore and beyond by sea. In the past, cargo from Chongqing had to be shipped along the Yangtze River to Shanghai in eastern China before it can be sent to Singapore. With the new corridor, the time needed to transport cargo between Western China and Southeast Asia has been cut from 3 weeks to just 1 week. This also means lower logistics costs for companies.
I think it's been getting quite a good usage by traders. They're largely in the area of paper and pulp, perishables, and some other time-sensitive item. Actually, during COVID, this trade corridor has shown its usefulness. Yeah, we have people who actually move things out from Chongqing, and it was quite a breeze. You know, there was no delays and hindrances.
Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the corridor has seen a 20% increase in trade volume in the first half of this year. Despite shut borders during the COVID-19 pandemic, trade volume along a China-Singapore land-sea trade corridor rose 20% in the first half of this year. The corridor is built under the framework of the China-Singapore Chongqing Demonstration Initiative on Strategic Connectivity, which marks its 5th anniversary this year.
ASEAN countries have tapped on this corridor to ensure there's a stable supply of food into West China, as well as stable supply of food from West China into Southeast Asia.
Beyond trade and logistics, Singapore and Chongqing have launched a dedicated data channel linking both sides. This will position Chongqing as the data hub for Western China and Singapore as the data hub for Southeast Asia. At the same time, the CCI has also promoted other aspects of Singapore-Chongqing cooperation. For instance, healthcare cooperation has increased with the opening of Singapore's Raffles Medical Group's first hospital in China in Chongqing last year. The National University of Singapore will also launch its second overseas research institution in Chongqing. To date, over $32 billion worth of projects and agreements linked to the project have been signed.
在项目实施5年以来我们通过项目的合作和人文的交往拉近了我们中新两国重庆和新加坡两地以及我们整个西部地区和东盟的更友好的合作更亲密的接触这个为我们深化互信促进合作广泛的开展交流奠定了良好的基础。
Efforts are also underway to roll out more initiatives in priority areas like financial services and communication technologies.
In general, I can say what we will do is to further expand our network and bring in more partners, because the CCI is meant to be an open and inclusive platform. We will work hard to bring in more users, to increase the number of users so that we can have better economies of scale. This will allow us to enter a virtuous cycle. So with lower unit costs, we can attract even more users.
Chongqing municipality, with a population of more than 31 million people, is one of the world's largest cities. And as it further integrates with neighbouring Chengdu to form a new city cluster, it will become an increasingly important market not just for Singapore, but also for countries served by the trade corridor which passes through the city. Much has changed since China and Singapore established diplomatic ties 30 years ago. It certainly moved with the times but remains strong and multifaceted. But what does the future hold for China-Singapore relations?
Singapore's homegrown F&B outlet, Putien, has been serving up Fujian cuisine in the city-state for 20 years. Its foray into China 5 years ago has given it a front-row seat to the rapid changes that are taking place in the world's second-largest economy. Mr. Fong CHAK, a second-generation restaurateur, has been amazed by how fast his Chinese competitors always manage to adapt and adjust with the help of technology to changing market trends, especially during the recent COVID-19 crisis. Nationwide lockdowns for over 2 months earlier this year forced restaurants across China to close down.
In just a day or two after closing down, businesses start to actually package their delivery, bring down the price just for that tiny stream of revenue. And it was just in a day or two. So the reaction of businesses was really fast. The use of technology I think this is a huge difference as well, and it actually forced businesses going to China to adopt these technologies because you can't move far without this.
What local entrepreneurs like Putien's Mr. FONG experience in their ventures in China in a way encapsulates the evolving trends and future Singapore-China collaboration.
Today, the speed at which things will happen, now that we are in a globalized economy, the things that move, the supply chains, the movement, the speed at which news, information, data is made available, and that requires some skills and imagination and courage, in fact, almost was a boldness to experiment, to push out, to try out things and so on. This is what is so challenging about the new world today. So whatever the relationships were like in the 30 years that have passed, I think the next 30 years will be very, very different.
When bilateral relations started 3 decades ago, China was an impoverished backwater, eager to lift its people out of poverty. Today, it is a global economic powerhouse that increasingly wows the world with its technological prowess. But observers say Singapore still has much to offer.
The attractiveness of Singapore actually goes beyond its geographical location. We have a very good international reputation. We have a good brand name. We are known for our transparency in terms of our rules and regulations. We are also known as a location where there is a congregation of professional services that can be called upon to resolve differences and disputes that arise. So these are factors which position Singapore well in this next phase of collaboration.
Despite an ever-changing external environment, dialogue between the two countries at the highest levels continue uninterrupted each year, showing a deep commitment to look beyond differences to find ground for mutually beneficial cooperation.
面对危机和困难，同舟共济，共克时艰，这才是行之有效的应对之道。因为人类是一个命运共同体。 中国是这么想的，也是这么做的。
Lui Tak-yu, Singapore's ambassador to China, says China's evolving needs will chart the direction of Singapore's continued partnership with China, and more so in a post-pandemic world.
The models of social governance will have to evolve. Insurance, perhaps natural catastrophe insurance, healthcare insurance, maybe even things like unemployment insurance will need to play a larger part in their social safety nets and their models of social governance. I'm sure China is thinking hard about some of these issues, and therefore it is important for us to interact more closely with them, understand their priorities, the reforms that they're undertaking.
And at the upcoming Joint Council for Bilateral Cooperation, an annual forum chaired at the Deputy Prime Ministerial level, which will move ahead virtually this year due to the pandemic. Further details will be released on how the two countries will work together in the area of public health research and vaccine development to combat COVID-19.